When I came here, I was blown away by Western civilization. I was a woman alone. I came to a country that let me be who I am. My skin color didn't matter. My gender didn't matter. What mattered to me when I first came in 1992 to the Netherlands was I wanted to be free of the imposition of my parents, my entire culture, my religion that was driving me in a certain direction. I didn't want to marry that man. I didn't want to go to Canada. I wanted to find a pathway to my own destiny. And for me, the United States of America represents, and I know we all have our perspectives, we all have our prisms, but this place, for me, represents that. It's a place where you come out of adversity, and where if you want to, you survive, and if you want to, you thrive, and if you want to, you help others out. And that is the AHA Foundation. I sat at that table, I'm still doing it, because I want to say, I'm out of it. I'm not, I don't in any way feel repressed by the Somali Moors or the Islamic faith. I don't have to deal with my background. And I can shake it all off. I can shake it all off. I can say, you know, well, I'm out, you stay in, what the hell, I don't care. But I care. I care because I know all those little girls, my age mates. I was born on November 13, 1969, in a hospital in Somalia, a hospital that doesn't exist anymore because of the civil war. And I ask myself, where are all those little girls who were born at the same time as I was? And 10 years later, and 10 years later. And I wonder about what happened to all the little girls that I went to school with in Kenya. I wonder about all those young women who were forced into marriage, and I was a witness, and I was that hapless, helpless, powerless witness, waiting, by the way, for one day my father to come and to force me into marriage. And when I reflect on their lives, and I reflect on my life, I really understand one thing and one thing only, which is, I'm not as helpless and as hapless as I was when I was 15. Now I can shine a light on who these women are. The women who are 14 and 15 today, the child, the 5-year-old, 6-year-old in Brooklyn and in Chicago and in Minneapolis, several of the places where there are concentrations of immigrants that come from places who share that kind of culture with me. And these children's genitals are taken off. It has that clinical name, female genital mutilation. Another clinical name, maybe not so clinical name, child marriage. I was there as a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old when my classmates were pulled out of school and forced into marriage. And it's happening here right now. And it's happening in a grand scale. Because of immigration and I'm a globalist, I want the world to come together. But I have to be very honest and clear about one thing. As the world comes together from the south to the north, from the east to the west, I do want Western civilization to prevail. And I say I want Western civilization to prevail as a female because I know it's the only civilization that will allow me to overcome these adversities and to thrive. Now, I also know that we are going through today, I mean, who can ignore it? The sexual harassment cases in the workplace that we are seeing now. The fall from grace of people like Charlie Rose. I've got to say I admired that man, and he's fallen from grace, and I'm one of those people who's going, wow. Matt Lauer, Harvey Weinstein, all of these guys. And as we go from one case to the other, and from one column to the other, and we talk and we chatter on, I just want to point out over and over again, look at where we are. I'm not saying that men don't do these things. Some men, not all men, some men do these terrible things. But what I want to resist, number one, is that it is the nature of men. Because to say that we just can't help it, men just grope, men just harass, that's how men are made. It's just how they are. I think that is going back to what my grandmother used to say. She used to hold my hand when I was 4 or 5 years old and point to the goats coming home. And there would be a he-goat that would jump the she-goats, and she would say, that's what men are. They're like these he-goats. And growing up and coming to the West, I've always resisted the idea of the male as the he-goat. Or as the Australian, there's an Australian woman there. The Imam in Australia said, well, he compared women to red meat and men to hounds, wild dogs. And if your image of a male is they are wild dogs, they just can't help it. And we're red meat. Then you're going, that is not civilization, not Western civilization or any civilization. It is anti-civilization. And I want to resist that. And I've always wanted to resist that. So given what we are seeing now, I want to point out that in this country, I'm not saying these things do not happen, but now that women are brave enough to come out in large numbers and resist, the men are punished. If my father forces me into a marriage where I come from, it's his right. If my husband rapes me, it is his right. As a woman, I'm not supposed to show up in some workplace, but if I do and I get into trouble, it's my fault. We live here where we all agree that a father is not allowed to force his daughter into anything she doesn't want to do. Maybe he can force her into playing the piano. And this is what the AHA Foundation ultimately is about. It's these girls who are being forced to do things that they don't want to do. And as the world comes together, and as we get immigrants from the East and from the South into here, and let them come. Why not? I came, I survived, I thrived. All I want the AHA Foundation to do is to challenge the confrontation of these two different sets. These two different sets of values. And there is a value system that honors violence against women. There's a value system that honors this. There's a value system that says no. And for you, the American people, not the people in this room, but for the wider society to understand that for this mix to happen, and it is happening, we are going to have more people from this part of the world come to, from that part of the world come to this part of the world. As this happens, I would like the values of individual freedom for women, for gays, for religious minorities, for individuals to prevail. That is at the core what the AHA Foundation is about for me. It is about these women who are voiceless, these individual girls who want to go to school, who want to put on makeup, who want to go and follow their own destinies. And ultimately, that is what it is about. That is what you have been supporting. I can stand here and give you entire speeches about the things that we have done, what we're, the bureaucratic, the policies, the legislation, etc. But ultimately, this is what it boils down to. And ultimately, it's also, we are at the very beginning of it all. We are at the very beginning. I thank you so much for your friendship, for your support, for believing in me. And I would say, please, let's meet again 10 years from now, hopefully in a much larger room, where the AHA Foundation will not be necessary. Where 10 years from now, everybody will be so aware and know so well that you don't need activism to get through to the American people and to those who want to come to America, the very obvious. And the very obvious is if you come here and you want individual freedom, then you should be prepared. You should be prepared to allow for that individual freedom for your daughters, for your wives, for your sisters, and for all women. Thank you.